Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, where we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And in today's episode, the topic is why the Clippers and Lakers are still the favorites over the Nets, in my opinion. So that's the topic I want to get into in today's video. But before we get into that, I want you guys to please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Also be on the lookout for our Dreamerspro Premium community, and also be on the lookout for Dreamerspro.com, which will be coming towards the end of the month. Anyway, let me get into this topic here. So, last night I watched the Brooklyn Nets game, their first game with James Harden, and it's kind of the reason I'm doing this video, because I saw some things in that game that I want to talk about. And that's what made me decide to do this topic here today. So we all know the noise surrounding the Brooklyn Nets with the acquisition of James Harden. Everybody's been like, they're going to go to the finals. They're going to be so great. They put them ahead of a lot of teams already in the Eastern Conference, like the Milwaukee Bucks and others, Miami Heat, the Philadelphia 76ers. And I think the reason a lot of people are doing that is because they're just looking at the star power. Because, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, how can this team not make it to the NBA Finals, right? But as I said before in the previous video, I had some questions about the team. Number one, I had some questions about their chemistry, given the fact that Kyrie Irving was in and out of the lineup. We didn't know what was going on with him. He seemed to be a little bit temperamental, with him not communicating with the organization, them not really knowing when he's going to come back and all of that. Then we had some leadership questions. He mentioned that the team doesn't need a coach. That's one issue. I don't think you can have one of your star players say that. Is the leader of the team Kyrie is going to be Kevin Durant. Kyrie has been known not to be a very good team leader. Kevin Durant has never really led a team on his own. Some people just associate him with being the best player, so they say, okay, he's going to be a leader. Skip Bayless has said that he feels like he's going to lead this group. Another question I've had is their playing style. I don't know how two ball dominant players are going to be playing with Kevin Durant, who's not a really ball dominant player, doesn't need the ball a lot in his hands to be very effective. So there's that as well. And lack of defenders. These three stars are not very good defensive players. There's no way to slice it. They can talk about all of these advanced analytics of James Harden being able to get the most deflections and all. These are just stats that people make up to have a job, to be quite honest with you. You can say whatever you want to say, but no one has accused James Harden ever being a great defender, nor Kyrie, nor Kevin Durant. Of the three, I think Kyrie, the time I saw him play the best defense was when he went against Stephen Curry in the Warriors in the playoffs and the finals. That's when I saw him really take it upon himself to really go at Steph and really play some hard-nosed defense. But apart from that, none of these three guys have ever made a defensive team, not even all third defensive teams. So the teams that I think are better, like the Lakers and Clippers, have much better defenders. Now, they may not be playing defense at the level that they need to. For example, the Clippers are not at the championship defensive level, but the championship is not tomorrow. Like, teams have played less than 20 games this season, so they don't need to be playing championship defense in January. So, but I still think they have the better defense. Not even I think, they do have the better defenders. If we're talking about their top players, Kawhi, Paul George, LeBron, AD, these are multiple defensive players. You have defensive player of the years, like first team defensive type players. So I don't even think you can even put the Nets top players in the same universe if we're talking about playing both sides of the ball. Some people say, like, for example, look at the Kevin Durant Kawhi Leonard comparison and say KD is much better than Kawhi. No, he's not. He's not much better than Kawhi. Kawhi Leonard is a much better defensive player. Kevin Durant could never dream of playing the defense that Kawhi Leonard played, and defense is half of the game. So how can he be much better? If you take defense into part of the equation, then Kawhi Leonard is like an all-time great defender. If you take offense, Kawhi Leonard is a very efficient scorer. KD is he's a more efficient scorer, and he's a better scorer than Kawhi Leonard. Absolutely, there's no question about that in my mind. But if we're talking about an overall two-way play, I don't even think it's close. So there's that. Now, last night I was watching tidbits of the game between them and the Magic, because I didn't think it was a very interesting matchup. I'm not really interested to see the Magic play, to be quite honest with you. If we look at the NBA standings here, the Magic are the number 60, but they have a 6-7 record. I don't get excited to watch losing teams play basketball. It's just not interesting to me. So I was watching, bits of that game just to see how these two guys would play, because Kyrie Irving didn't play, right? But James Harden did play, and it sounded like they were going to start James Harden at the point guard spot. Most of that game, it was a back and forth game. The Magic were hitting some shots, but the Magic were depleted of a lot of their great players. Like, a lot of good players on the Magic were injured, so they were not playing with the full complement of their players. A lot of their players were so basically they were a shorthanded team. And I was watching the Brooklyn Nets and James Harden go back and forth, with Kevin Durant. Then I looked at the game, and then I saw that the Brooklyn Nets had played most of their stars in that third quarter, almost all that third quarter. Then starting the fourth, I saw that they had KD and James Harden in the game. And the first thing that came to my mind was, this team, Kevin Durant and James Harden, have made it up in their mind today that they're not going to lose this game, and they're just going to out-talent the Magic. They probably said to themselves, there's no way we're going to start off this new experiment with a loss. And Kevin Durant and James Harden played the entire fourth quarter, all 12 minutes. They need to play both of these guys just to be competitive against the Magic, a shorthanded Magic. And I basically said to myself at that point, they're going to use talent to beat this team, because the Magic were not as talented, obviously, as the Brooklyn Nets. To put that in context, Kevin Durant and James Harden both played 40 minutes. 40 minutes. It took these guys 40 minutes just to beat the Magic, and it wasn't like a blowout. That game was close all the way up until under the 2-minute mark, when the Brooklyn Nets were able to pull away. Now, if I look at the team stats, they beat them 115 to 122. And therein lies the problem. Therein begins the problem, because some people may look it down in his face and say, well, Kevin Durant had 42 points. James Harden had the first triple-double, 30-point triple-double for a debut of a team. These are just offensive numbers. These are superficial stats. You got to go a little bit deeper and understand actually what happened in that game. Yes, these guys, James Harden had a triple-double. Kevin Durant finished with 42 points, but he only had 4 rebounds. They didn't rebound the ball well. Jeff Green only finished with 4 rebounds. James Harden was the only Brooklyn Net, think about this, as the point guard to get double-digit rebounds. That can't happen. If I look at the Magic, they had their center was the one that led the team in rebounds, but the Brooklyn Nets, that wasn't the case. Now, if I go and look at the Brooklyn Nets stats, and this is the reason why I said the Lakers and Clippers are still better. The Brooklyn Nets are scoring 119 points per game. And that sounds amazing. They're scoring 119 points per game. The problem is they're giving up 113 a game. They're not holding guys. They're not holding other teams to close to 100. That's too high to be giving up 115. That means if you're giving up 113 points per game, if you're off here and there, you could actually lose a lot of games because you can't stop guys. Now, the Clippers have not been playing the Clippers have not been playing as well on defense, because the Clippers are scoring 114 points per game, which I really don't care about. But their defense is 109.6, which I don't like, and that number needs to go down. Right? That number needs to be much lower. If we look at the Lakers, okay, the Lakers are scoring 115 and holding opponents to 104. So the Lakers have a much better differential. They're beating teams by a higher differential. Now, granted, the Lakers have played some teams that are not very good. Clippers have played 8 above 500 teams, but nevertheless, the Lakers are playing better defense than the Clippers, and the Clippers are playing better defense than the Nets. And the Nets just seem to be top heavy. It just seems to be a whole bunch of offense. So yes, the media will point to the 30-point triple-double that James Harden had. But if I still compare these three teams, the Lakers and Clippers are better than the Nets, man. If we're talking about an overall team, better defensive players, star players that can rebound, the Clippers have better rebounders on their team. I mean, if you're looking at their star, Kawhi Leonard's rebounding numbers about 5 this season, which are usually about 7. But LeBron is an amazing rebounder. Anthony Davis gets some good rebounds per game. So I'm not so sold on the Brooklyn Nets. LeBron is getting you 7.7 rebounds per game. AD is getting you 8 rebounds per game. That can be higher, but the Lakers have been a more consistent team, and I still think the Lakers and the Clippers are going to be better than the Nets. I have some questions about the Nets. Now, we have to wait and see when Kyrie Irving comes back, because when he does come back, the question is, what position is he going to play? Right? What position is he going to be moving to the 2 guard? Because if he's a 2 guard, he's going to be an undersized 2 guard at 6'3". Usually players at that spot are usually 6'4" to 6'5" or 6'6", really. You want your shooting guard to be between 6'4" and 6'6". And then your small forward is usually between 6'6" and 6'8", 6'9" in some cases. LeBron is about, how tall is LeBron James? Okay, LeBron is 6'9" as the small forward, right? And if you look at Kawhi Leonard, 6'7", but Paul George, who plays a 2 for the Clippers, is 6'8". You're going to match up Kyrie with a Paul George? So I have some questions about the Nets. It was a good win for them, but I'm not going to just overblow it the way the media is overblowing it. And for me, I still think the Clippers and the Nets are, the Clippers and the Lakers are still favored over the Brooklyn Nets. So what I want to know from you guys is, what do you think? What do you think about the debut of James Harden? What do you think about the things that I said? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Again, if you enjoyed the video, please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Once again, it's just Charles here from Dreamerspro. Wishing you guys an amazing day. Catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.